This week on LISD Overtime, we'll be covering all the soccer playoff action that happened this week, and we'll take a look into a very unique LHS sports team. I'm Kellen Croxton, and welcome back to LISD Overtime. Starting right off with soccer, in the bi-district rounds last week, the Colony boys played their first playoff game against Liberty. Right from the start, Liberty was very aggressive, but strong defense and a penalty kick from Eli Elias gave the Cougars a lead early. Down 1-0 at the half, Liberty continued to play aggressive and eventually scored an equalizing goal. Both teams started to shoot, but neither could find the net. The rest of the half was quiet and the game went into overtime. Two missed shots left the Colony scoreless, but a save by Brian Carrillo sent the game into double overtime. Not much was different in the second overtime, and the game was eventually sent to penalties. Colony scores first, followed by a blocked Liberty shot and a blocked Colony shot. The Colony and Liberty then both score on the next two shots, and Liberty is blocked again. Colony scores their remaining two, and they win this game 5-3. While the Colony was able to pull out a win in the first round, the same can't be said for the other two boys' teams. Flower Mound struggled in a 4-1 loss to Allen, and going into the game, Flower Mound and Allen seemed to be pretty evenly matched, and even in the second half, the score was tied at 1-1. But in the second half, the Eagles quickly racked up 3 consecutive goals. And while the loss is tough for Flower Mound, a surprising one hurts even more. A feeling the Marcus boys soccer team knows all too well. Going into the bi-district round, the Marauders were considered a contender for the state title, ranked 3rd in Texas and 52nd in the nation. All expectations were for this to be an easy game for the Marauders. However, in a 1-0 loss to Denton Guyer, their season was over before many had thought it started. Moving on to the boys soccer area playoffs, the Colony boys took on RL Turner. While the score was level 1-1 at the half, the Lions came out scoring 2 goals in the first 5 minutes of the second half. The Colonies tried to bounce back by scoring just a few minutes after, but the Cougars had a few chances, but it wasn't enough to put them over the edge. The Colony had a tough 3-2 loss. The Cougars made it to the area round for the first time in 7 years and also won district for the first time since 1998. And the Colony's loss means that all boys teams are out of the playoffs. And while the guys' team struggled in the bi-district round, the girls saw much more success. 3 out of the 4 teams won their bi-district game, up from the 1 on the boys' side. The Flower Mound girls came into this game with stronger credentials than the Marcus boys, being 2nd in state and top 25 in the nation. And of course they had to go up against Denton Guyer, the team that upset the Marcus boys. However, the same wouldn't be the case this time as they ended up winning 2-1. Marcus girls won in double overtime 2-1 over McKinney Boyd, and Hebron girls soccer, a team that wasn't even supposed to be in the playoffs until their last game, beat Allen 2-1. The Hawks won in double overtime behind 2 goals from Ariana Jiminson. Next, Hebron would go up against Martin, a team who scored 23 goals and only allowed 1 in their past 4 games. Hebron came into this game an underdog after an upset win over Allen. Martin was undefeated this season, and Hebron barely made the playoffs. The Hawks struck first with an early goal in the first half, and then Martin quickly responded. After the game was tied, Hebron scored again, and their defense held Martin to a 2-1 deficit at the half. As the second half started, Martin had an aggressive goal that tied the game at 2-2, but before Martin could use their momentum, Hebron scored once again, putting Martin in a deficit. Hebron continues their underdog run as they can hang on in this one, 3-2. The Flower Mound girls also played their area game on Tuesday night against South Grand Prairie. Flower Mound came into this game at number 1 in the state and number 12 in the nation, and in the first half, it showed. The Lady Jags controlled the speed of this game, and almost all of the shots taken in the first half were by them. Riley Baker scored a goal midway through the first half, and Madison Schott scored as the first half came to an end. At halftime, Flower Mound led 2-0. In the second half, the game started to slow, the Jags started to coast, and the Warriors continued to struggle. Flower Mound was doing well up until the last 15 minutes of the game. South Grand Prairie then shifted the momentum by scoring a goal, making the score 2-1. Shortly after the goal, Flower Mound gave South Grand Prairie a way back into the game, allowing the Warriors to attempt a crucial penalty kick. The Warriors missed their game-tying opportunity on the penalty, and the momentum was back with Flower Mound. The Lady Jags ended up winning the game 2-1, but a worrying performance from the Jags. South Grand Prairie wasn't ranked within the top 100 teams in Texas. In the next round, Flower Mound will be playing the number 2 in state, Prosper. And finally, the Marcus girls won 3-0 in their area game against J.J. Pierce. They led 3-0 going into the half and continued to cruise the rest of the game. This win marks their 12th shutout of the season and their 16th game, scoring 3 or more goals. They'll be playing their third round game against Hebron on April 12th. In some other sports news, Flower Mound's girls varsity water polo team remained undefeated this season after defeating Geyer 10-4 and Braswell 14-3. The Jags, who are 6-0 on the season, will be going up against Marcus and Carroll this Saturday the 3rd. And for some golf news, the varsity girls team from Hebron became district champions last weekend at the Tribute in the Colony. Lady Hawks took a 13-stroke lead after day 1 of the 2-day tournament, posting scores of 305 and 298 for a 2-day total of 603. Hebron captured the team title by 24 strokes over runner-up Capel. Hebron also doubled as the individual champion, with Sion posting a winning score of 141 and finishing at 3 under par. Now, when you think of sports in the district, you probably think of football, soccer, baseball, all the basics. But at Lewisville High School, there's a sports team that's definitely out of the ordinary. Aaron Massey has more on that story.
This is the AMF bowling alley, where Lewisville's bowling team practices.
A lot of people don't even know there's a bowling team, but once they find out, we get interest, right? Because bowling's fun. It's a family sport. Once they realize how technical and how much of a sport and scholarships, there's like tons of scholarships for bowling that are out there that go unclaimed because people don't even know it.
Normally, Lewisville has enough people for 2 bowling teams. However, due to COVID, they only have enough people for 1 team.
This year was tough. Due to COVID and restrictions, we weren't able to set a table up on 9th grade night, show what we do, and we'll have some of us out there.
A lot of people don't just join the bowling team for the bowling.
My favorite part about bowling for the team for high school is the competitiveness.
I think it was about the competition and the friends I made.
The bowling team does a lot of competitions from ones in the district.
Just like we had the Battle of the Axe, we have what is called the Battle of the Pen. So this year we kind of did that head-to-head, and we actually won for the inaugural year of 2020.
They also do many out of district.
Since we're in first place, we're preparing for regionals. So regionals and state and then all district. Right now, most of our players are in all of those categories as a first place team.
I'm now joined by Assistant Athletic Director for the district, Clay Cody. How are you doing today, Clay?
Doing well. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, of course, all the time. So tonight, Ellisman will actually be hosting the FMHS Lewisville High School baseball game, and currently Lewisville is struggling kind of right now. So what can a team that's in a 4 or 5 game slump do to kind of get out of that slump?
Well, anytime you start losing a lot of games, everybody starts doubting themselves, and so they've got to believe in themselves and they believe in the coaches and get small goals. Whether it's just throw strikes, get on base, get a couple of hits, go inning by inning. Hopefully, those small goals can become bigger goals and they can start winning.
Yeah, and Flower Mound, on the other hand, is kind of playing 500 ball. They're splitting games with Hebron and Marcus. How difficult is it to beat the same team twice in a season?
Really difficult, especially with a lot of our baseball teams. They're now playing the same team on a Tuesday and a Friday. And so a lot of those reasons is just matchups. You're seeing 2 different pitchers. The coaches are making adjustments, players make adjustments throughout the game, and we have such high-level baseball here. It's tough to beat someone twice in a season, really tough to beat someone twice in 1 week, and it makes it a challenge. It makes it fun for the fans, though.
Yeah. And moving on to soccer, because of course we have to talk about soccer this episode. So much has been happening, and especially with the Colony, they've had kind of a historic season. How impactful is their season that they're happening right now?
They had a great season. You know, unfortunately they lost last night, and we were disappointed. But they really got the school excited, and first time in quite a few years for them to go 2 rounds deep in the playoffs. So we were really excited for them and those kids to experience that.
Thanks, Clay. This week's Team of the Week is the Marcus girls soccer team. After their area win over J.J. Pierce, they've kept all their streaks intact. And while some may say defense is the best offense or offense is the best defense, the Lady Marauders chose to be the best at both. They have 12 shutouts on the season in 16 games with 3 or more goals. Marcus is also on a 7-game win streak going into the 3rd round of the playoffs, despite finishing 2nd in district. And finally, some baseball news. Lewisville Sports Media Network will be covering the Flower Mound boys versus Lewisville tonight at 7 p.m. right here on LISD AV Productions. Flower Mound is coming into the game at 3-2 and hoping to find some consistency, while Lewisville is looking to add a win to their schedule. Well, that's all the sports news we have for this episode. Make sure to come back next episode for more information on what's happening with sports around the district. I'm Kellen Croxton, and thanks for watching LISD Overtime.